Okay, guys, we gotta get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here.
I think the international community has to make sure that whatever Israel does is not upending the regional order as we know it. And the US has a responsibility. So we've been in this cause for 12 months now of constantly red lines being crossed, mostly by the Israelis.
Are you serious?
The Hezbollah and Iran have played it fairly rationally.
Can you believe this guy?
Trying to be very cautious in how they respond, trying to leave off-ramps where they could. The Netanyahu government has kind of lost the opportunity at every sort of junction to use an off-ramp that was given to them.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
So, for those of us in the Western world who have stood up and criticised these so-called pro-Palestinian marches, we do it because we know that the people who march on our streets, chanting slogans about rivers and seas, do it from a place of pure hatred.
Oh wow, really? Alright, go for it!
To put simply, people like me are against these marches for two fundamental reasons. Firstly, on the more domestic side of things, and by domestic I mean the Western side, it's not in our streets. It's not in our roads, our villages, towns and cities that you should be protesting. You can't push or force or change government policy through vandalism, intimidation and in a lot of cases violence. Secondly, and probably more importantly, these people who take to the streets in these marches chanting these slogans, the sheer amount of people who are so ignorant of the history of Israel and is supposedly named Palestinians is mind-numbing. Of course, it is primarily leftists who have a false historical perspective on the matter. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go through the entire history of the entire conflict and everything else here. There are far more credible people than me who are capable of doing so without losing their cool. However, as a small snippet of what we are talking about, check this clip out.
Israel was minding its own business ever since it existed. It reached out to the Arabic world. It wanted to have peace with the Arabic world. In 1964, when the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, was founded, the West Bank was in the hands of Jordan. It was Jordan. And Gaza was in the hands of Egypt. It was Egypt. So the PLO was founded in 1964, not because of any occupation. They wanted to drive the Jews into the sea and get rid of every single Jew in the Middle East. Israel tried repeating. The only reason the Palestinians lost in 67 and they lost Gaza and the West Bank is because they preempted an attack against Israel. And over again, Israel reached out to them to make peace with them. In 2000, Ehud Barak offered them 97% of the territories back, and they refused it again and again and again.
The full link is linked in the sources below. Go check it out, because the full clip has Bridget Gabriel going into detail about every single time Israel offered peace, but was rejected for one reason. They're Jewish.
Bastards. Bastard-coated bastards with bastard filling.
Why? Because they're Jewish? Well...
In their first election, the first woman elected to the cabinet of Hamas was a woman by the name Nidal, the mother of al-Mukawama, they called her, the mother of the resistance. And she ran on the platform, I killed 3 of my sons, because she had videos of her sons, she dressing them in suicide bombers to go kill Israelis. She said, I already gave up 3 for the cause, I have another 7 to give.
أنا بدفع ابني للجهاد في سبيل الله واجب علينا مكلفين شرعيا إيوه يعني أنا لو بدي مثلا أعطف عليه أو إشي وأخليه يتراجع عن حاجة زي هذه ما بيكونش صح أنا يعني بكون سويت غلط، يعني أنا بديش أمشي على عاطفتي، عاطفة الأمومة، يعني بأضحي فيها شوية لأجل أشياء أكبر من ذلك، حتى إنه يعني كمان الحاجة هذه مرتبطة بعاطفة الأمومة. ليش؟ أنا بحب ابني، فبدي أختار له الأحسن والأفضل. الأحسن مش هو الحياة هذه الدنيا، لا، عندنا حياة آخرة هي السعادة الأبدية، فإذا أنا بحب ابني بختار له السعادة الأبدية.
That's why she was elected. So that's a democratic election for Hamas. Israel did not put the Palestinians in a prison in Gaza. Hamas put the Palestinians in a prison in Gaza. Gaza could have been turned into Singapore. They had the money. They had more money pouring into the Palestinian territories and still do from all over the world. And what did they do with it? Build a tunnel infrastructure underneath bigger than the subway system in New York. And
that's the truth of this so-called war. That is why to be anti-Israel is to be anti-Jewish. It is linked. So now in knowing this, in knowing just these brief glimpses into the true story of what is happening, having me wake up to this situation this morning was one heck of a caffeine hit.
We stand with Israel and we recognise her right to self-defence in the face of this aggression. Iran must stop these attacks, together with its proxies like Hezbollah. Iran has menaced the Middle East for far too long. Chaos and destruction brought not just to Israel, but to the people they live amongst in Lebanon and beyond.
Well, that's funny, Starmy. I'm going to call him Starmy from now on, because you've been singing a different tune for a while now. Keir Starmer expected to push for Palestinian state in Labour manifesto.
Liar!
But it wasn't until he gets questioned on his stance that the truth is plain for all to see.
First of all, is the UK prepared to use British military capabilities to help Israel defend itself against Iran, and has that already happened this evening?
This, as you'll appreciate, in this evolving situation. But what I will say is that we stand with Israel and her right to self-defence, and any relevant updates will be provided in due course.
You said nothing.
A very clear and direct question, and this weak and ineffective Prime Minister didn't have the balls to answer. But then again, he did answer, didn't he? He really did. His sidestep reply was an answer, because he's concentrating on one thing: himself, securing his position, keeping his party together, who are split between two factions. A small, and it is very small, pro-Israel lobby, and a huge, a humongous anti-Israel, pro-Palestine contingent that was given so much power when Jeremy Corbyn was leader. It's all about self-preservation and nothing more. This was made clear during another question.
So what is your message to Israel now? Are you again calling for restraint? Because they would argue that didn't deter a second attack.
Well, my message very clearly tonight is to condemn this attack by Iran, to recognise in clear terms Israel's right to security and to defend herself.
I'm sorry, is that why you had David Lammy, that bumbling oaf you call a foreign secretary, restrict weapons being sent to Israel?
It is with regret that I inform the House today the assessment I have received leaves me unable to conclude anything other than that for certain UK arms exports to Israel, there does exist a clear risk that they might be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law. I have informed my Right Honourable friend, the Business and Trade Secretary, and he is therefore today announcing the suspension of around 30 from a total of approximately 350 to Israel, as required under the Export Controls Act.
Wanker. Obviously, I think all parties are concerned to ensure this doesn't spiral into a much bigger conflict, but on the principle of Israel's right to self-defence, I've been very, very clear.
Doesn't spiral? Where have you been for the last year, Starmy? Have you been all consumed in appeasing your militant voters from the so-called religion of peace, who, through Angela Rayner of course, you incidentally begged to vote for you at the last election?
What a loser.
You refuse to see the truth that is so very clear-cut. One side is inherently evil and one is not. Never in the history of warfare has it been like this, because this isn't a war over territory or politics. It's a war over the existence of the Jewish state. Something that the so-called religion of peace, I keep using inverted commas for that by the way, cannot tolerate. I can't speak for the rest of the Western world, but we as in the United Kingdom are being sleepwalked into World War III. Not necessarily with Russia, although that's a possibility, but probably the entire Middle East. And it's not because of decision, but because of indecision, of wrong decisions being made. Starmer keeps insisting that there is only a political outcome that can come from this. Yeah, I'm sure Neville Chamberlain thought the same. Wow, how history repeats itself. Jesus Christ. This, of course, is an ongoing situation, obviously. Now, originally, I was going to be talking about a completely different subject, the hideous performance Tim Walz did at the vice presidential debate, but that seems a little, lackluster in comparison. Certainly not as important. Though, I will say this, it did give us a decent meme or two.
You previously opposed an assault weapons ban, but only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters.
What did he just say?
I've become friends with school shooters.
I've become friends with school shooters. I've become friends with school shooters.
Anyway, if I say much more on the original subject of this video, I will begin going down such a rabbit hole that will leave me by the end stressed, you bored, and others pissed off. Though that last part's kind of fun.
True. True.
So anyway, thank you all for watching, do take care, and as always, God bless.